Okay, so great to have everybody here. Just wanted to go ahead and share a quick idea about the Torah portion. So this week we have Parshas Pekudei, which is actually Mazal Tov. It's going to be the last book of the last parsha in the book of Exodus, the book of Shemos. So we're going to finish the second book of the 5 books of Moses of the Chumash. We're going to finish the second book today, or over the course of this Shabbos. So we'll say Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek. We should strengthen and strengthen. And it's really a beautiful, amazing opportunity to have this global Jewish community Torah study opportunity and project. And we'll have finished the second book this week. It's going to be amazing. Also, we read what we call Parshas HaChodesh, which is the part of the Torah that talks about Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, the new month. And now we have a mitzvah to go ahead and establish the new month every single month. Now, back in the day, we don't do this anymore. Now we have an established calendar. But back in the day, there used to be witnesses. When they would see the first sliver of the moon, of the new moon, they would run into the Sanhedrin. They'd run to Jerusalem, run to wherever the high court was, and they would give testimony. 2 guys would go. They would give testimony that they saw the new moon, and the court would go ahead and establish that it was a new month. Okay? So this is a mitzvah that was given to the Jewish people, or given to Moshe, that they should go ahead and establish this concept of Nisan being the first month of the year. And most of us are used to Rosh Hashanah being the new year. But there's an idea of Nisan being the head of the new year also. We'll save that for another time for discussion. So that's the things we're going to read this week. And I thought it'd be amazing, or just let's try to connect the two a little bit, right? To see what ideas we can learn from there, and how to, of course, to apply it to our lives, to apply to this time of year, to Pesach time. And so real quick, in Pekudei, we're going to go ahead and finish our accounting, right? We have Pekudei, which is chapter 38, or Parak Lamed Ches, verse Chaf Aleph, verse 21 in the book of Exodus and Shemos. And Pekudei means the reckonings, right? Ela Pekudei HaMishkan, Ha'idus, Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe, right? These are the reckonings of the tabernacle of the Mishkan, the tabernacle of testimony, which were reckoned at Moshe's biting. So Moshe went ahead and he made sure that everything was there. They made an accounting of every single item, every single piece of material, that every ounce, every thread that was contributed towards the building of the Mishkan. They went ahead and made a reckoning, made an accounting of it. And then it continues to tell us more about the actual building or creating or making of the Kohen garments, the Kohenic priestly garments, their vestments that they would wear. And that's how we kind of end off the Torah over here. So end off this week's portion. So we have last week's portion of Vayakel was where we talked about the actual building of the different vessels that were used in the Mishkan. And this week we talk more about the priestly garments that were made. And so I was reflecting this week with a friend of mine. We were talking about the Torah portion a little bit, and we were talking about Rosh Chodesh. So he said, why do Jewish people do the lunar year, right? Why do we go by the lunar month? That's how we establish. Our day-to-day goes by the sun, right? Sun up, sun down. When the sun goes up is when we'll pray in the morning. Sun goes down, it's time for evening prayers, right? And have Shema in the morning and Shema in the evening. And that's based off the day-to-day is based off the sun going up and down. But really, we set up our schedule, our whole lives, our holidays, our Shabbos. It's all dependent on the lunar, right? On the lunar month. So we're talking about this a little bit. We talked about how we've shared this probably in the past, how the Jewish people are analogous. So they're compared to the moon, because the moon waxes and wanes. It's got times of the month where it's big and bright and bold, right? And there's times of the month where you can barely even see it. It seems to have disappeared, right? I think classically every month people go out to see, oh, is the new moon there? Can we see it so we can do the blessing of the new moon? And people like to say, oh, there's no moon tonight. The answer, of course there's a moon tonight. You just can't see it yet, right? You can't see it. It's hidden behind the clouds, or it's not really seeable yet. So this idea of waxing and waning, being bold and bright, and sometimes really seeming to disappear, but really still being there beneath the surface. We're there. Just can't see us so well right now. That is the Jewish people, right? We've gone through moments of history where we're big, we're bright, we're bold, we're the limelight, right? We're like the moon shining in pitch black area and the moon's on. We used to go with the family up to Maine, and it was so exciting to find a spot where there was very little light pollution, right? And to go out on the dock in the middle of the lake, in the middle of the night or late at night, you can look up and see the sky, and the moon is so bright and bold and beautiful. And this is the Jewish people. We have moments where we can barely be seen. Sometimes sometimes we actually have to hide, right? And there's other moments where we're big and bold and bright, and the world gets to feel our light that we shine upon them. We reflect the beauty of the world upon the people of the world, upon the masses. And that's who we are as the Jewish people. But what's so amazing about it, and the way that it connects to the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the Beis Hamikdash, is how it really requires, different than Shabbos. Shabbos, the sun goes down on Friday night, and it's automatically Shabbos, no matter what. Whether we do Kabbalah Shabbos, whether we make Kiddush, it doesn't make a difference. It is Shabbos, it's Saturday, it's holy, boom. When it comes to Rosh Chodesh, though, really it's in the power of man. We established a month, right? The beast in the court is supposed to establish and say, announce, where it's a new month, new year, it's a new month. So that's in the power of man. Really, the holidays are the energy of the people, of the Jewish people. So in a certain sense, we bring that into the world. And the same thing is true when it comes to a Mishkan or a Beis Hamikdash or a shul, right? We go ahead and it's up to us, right? We have the song, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. Up, up, down, down, right? God's everywhere. But what's amazing is when we make a shul, when we gather 10 people together, when we human beings go ahead and create a structure, create a house for God's Shekhinah, for the presence of God to be in our midst, it has to come from us. We build it, right? We just talked all this time. They have the reckoning, the accounting, an actual building of the Mishkan. We're building this place to be a house of God. We are doing something to bring Hashem into our midst, right? And when we do that, when we make spaces for Hashem, it's amazing how it impacts our spirituality, our emotional world. We do physical activities, right? We do these things, and the blessing that it brings into our lives is amazing. So I think this is such a beautiful connection between Rosh Chodesh, the new month, the moon, us being involved in establishing the new month, and us building a Mishkan, us building a tabernacle, building a Beis Hamikdash. And nowadays, when we don't have the temple in our midst, right? We still have the kosel to go to, right? But we build ourselves a shul, right? We build a shul for ourselves. And that's where we can go to connect, have a place where Hashem's presence is there, heavily concentrated on this spot. But it's a physical spot where God brings his spirituality because we did it. We created that. And it needs us to create it, to bring down that energy of Hashem, that presence of for God to be in our midst. We need to create that space. And I think it's phenomenal. I was talking to somebody this week, and somebody a few years ago, we were talking about ways that we could bring more of Hashem into our presence. And somebody wanted to start keeping Shabbos. And he had some relatives that were not so excited about him keeping Shabbos. So we were discussing some ways that he could keep the Shabbos, or how could he do it. So we talked about perhaps having a space in his home on his Friday night, on his Saturday, places that could be shared as their Shabbos spaces together, but also to have a space that's created that is his Shabbos place. And those in the house that are not so excited about him doing more of a traditional Shabbos, they're going to agree not to mess with that space. So whether it's his bedroom or his office, right? He's going to set it up before Shabbat, before Shabbos starts. The lights are set the way they want to be. Nobody is going to be using, electronics or getting involved with weekday activities inside this Shabbos space. Same thing with somebody that wanted to start keeping kosher, more of the kosher laws, and his family was not ready to do so. And they said, don't do this to us. We're not ready for this. We don't want to do this, or we think you're crazy. I think they thought he was crazy. So we discussed finding a space or a time or a way that he could create a kosher space. So he started to bring his bagged lunch to work and that was kosher, right? The amazing thing of Rosh Chodesh and of the Mishkan, they teach us that when we create those spaces, when we go ahead and do something, we go ahead and make a significant spot or establish a place. This is specifically for Hashem. It's my time with Hashem here, whether it's a space and time, whether it's a physical space. I go here, and when I go here, I do this. And I don't do my outside world things, right? This is my holy spot for me and Hashem, for me and my Judaism, for me and my Torah. My slot during the week, I go to the Beit Midrash, I go to study, I go to a class, and when I'm doing that, I'm fully present and I'm turning off my phone or I'm ignoring those things, and I'm not going to be distracted by the outside world. I'm not going to sit there and play with my phone and text. I'm not going to watch the game while the rabbi's giving his class, whatever it might be. This is an amazing space for me to bring Hashem down into my world. I'm creating that space for Hashem. And that's what this idea of the Rosh Chodesh and the idea of the tabernacle, the reckoning of those accountings of the building of the Mishkan, of the Beis HaMikdash, of the Beis Medrash, of the study hall, of the Beis HaKnesses, of the shul, of the synagogue, of the temple. That's what we do. And right now in our homes, what are we doing? We're getting ready for Pesach. We're creating our houses. We are preparing our houses to make a space where we're going to have 8 days, or in Israel, 7 days, fully focused without all the chametz, without all the ego, and without all the yetzer hara, without all the outside influences. We're going to create a space that is clean of chametz, clean of the leaven. Tell that evil inclination to go away. We don't want you here, right? We don't need you here. Go away. It's almost like it's our cleansing of the year, right? It's our detox. Pesach is our detox from all those things on the outside that distract us, that get in our way, that keep us from being our best selves. So we start our Pesach cleaning. I'm sitting in a room in the carp house that is already clean for Pesach. I was nibbling on something before I came in to sit down to give this little talk, and I stopped, finished eating it, cleaned my fingers. Actually, I licked my fingers, and I did what we call the Pesach, the chametz dance. I shook myself off, and I kicked myself in, and I patted myself down, and made sure there's no chametz anywhere. No chametz in this space. No yetzer hara here. No ego here. This is a holy spot. It's a spot where we're going to cleanse ourselves. And when we clean for Pesach, we go through all the nooks and crannies to find those spaces in our lives that we could be doing better with Hashem. We could allow more of Hashem into that space. But right now, there's stuff in the way. We got to get the crumbs out. There's no room in here for God. We got to get the crumbs out of here to allow Hashem to be here. We need to create those spaces. And the power of Rosh Chodesh is on Sunday, Nisan. The energy of Nisan is the month we discussed last week and weeks before. It's Zman Cherusenu. It's the time of our freedom. We could pray for freedom from God all the time, whenever. But there's a special energy during the month of Nisan, and the climax is it's super concentrated on Pesach, to go ahead and say, Hashem, I have these things in my life that are trapping me. I need you to please free me from them. Help me to be freed so that I can be the best me, spend more time with you, create more spaces for you in my life. And that's what Zman Cherusenu, that's what the month of Nisan is all about. That's what getting rid of chametz is all about. So we got to prep for it. Let's read this week's Torah portion and talk about all the bits and pieces of accountings and buildings of the vessels and buildings of the vestments and preparing all so we can have this amazing space with God. And with that, we wish you an amazing Shabbos and hope that you have a tremendous, awesome, amazing Shabbos and a beautiful Rosh Chodesh. And we look forward to seeing you next week, God willing. Thank you so much.